Yesterday I had a really interesting conversation with an architect, and we were talking about a house, and the house is really, it's a cool house. It's a French country. It's got 12 pitches. It's got dormers. It's got a lot of rock work. It's a pretty house, really pretty house. The problem is the house that he's drawn doesn't fit the owner's budget. So we've got a Ferrari, and people can afford a GMC. So we started talking about where we could cut costs, and the architect said, "Well, I don't want to lose the feel of the house, because we could give them a cardboard box and it would be cheap, but that's not the look or the feel that they ultimately want." I'm like, "Well, I get that. We can value engineer it." And he's like, "I hate the word value engineer, because what that means to an architect is typically the builder is going to cut off all of the design that the architect has put into it. The architect's like, my beautiful masterpiece." So I said, I think there's other ways to get the look and the style and the feel that the homeowner wants by focusing on where the real value is. And so it started this conversation of where is the real value in a house. And from a builder's perspective, when I get that appraised, or even by the county when they come out to assess the value for taxes, or the real estate agent for market value, everything is based on square footage. So with that said, building an inexpensive home means that you're putting in as much square footage as possible, because that's where the value is, for as little amount of money as possible. So it started that thought process of where could we pick up inexpensive square footage. So the first place was in the basement. If we could find a lot for the owners where we could shrink down the footprint of the house and put in a basement, because every house is going to have a footing and it's going to have a stem wall. And if we only add another 4 foot of concrete to that crawl space, they get a full basement, they get double their square footage, and they get a greater value of the home for only slightly more cost associated with that. So basement was the first place we thought we could pick up more square footage. The second was going up and doing the attic trusses. Because inside that roof space, between the main floor and the roof, whether we have attic trusses in there or not, that space is going to be there. If we put living space in there, that square footage now has value, and the home can appraise for higher, and yet it's not a great big additional cost to building that home. So that was the conversation that started it. And so I get a lot of people that call me and say, "Hey, we want to build a house. Hey, can you build a house for us? How much does it cost to build that house per square foot?" That's a trick question, because there are so many variables. So usually when somebody says, "How much are you building for a square foot?" I start asking questions about where their priorities are, where they're building, what the CC&Rs or codes, covenants, and restrictions in their neighborhood might be, what the curb appeal is that they want in front of their house, and some of the other features that are important to them. If a family's got 8 kids and they definitely need 6-bedroom home with 3 bathrooms or whatever it may be, then that's going to be build specific to them, as opposed to, say, a retired couple that just wants room to entertain when family comes to visit or whatever. So when people ask me, "Hey, what are you at to build per square foot?" It's all about, hey, are we building in the city? Hey, are we building in the country? Hey, Is this a two-story home? Is this a rambler? Does it have a garage? And lots and lots of questions. So I want to take a few minutes and finish talking about the price per square foot and value engineering a home to get the most home for the least amount of money. Now, that does mean making some compromises. One of the least expensive homes that I've ever built had a basement in it. It was 30 foot by 40 foot, and it had attic trusses upstairs. So, bear with me on my drawing here. So I'm not sure if you can see that. I'm going to try and zoom in for you. Oh, that's a beautiful picture right there. So we were 30 foot by 40 foot. So if you take that, that equals 1,200 square feet. So that means in the basement we had 1,200, and upstairs on the main floor we had 1,200, and then upstairs in these attic trusses it was, hold on a second. We were, it was 40 foot by 14 foot. So we had, it was 14 foot across and then 40 foot long. So if we've got, sorry, I'm struggling to draw and do math and talk all at the same time. But 14 times 40 would be, yeah, so 10 times 40 is 400, and then another 160, so 560 square feet upstairs. Is that right? 80 and 80s? Yeah. 480 plus another 80 is 560. Okay, so total square footage of this house is 2,400, 2,960 square foot. Now, what was great about this house is that we only had, I mean, this thing is as value engineered as I've ever seen. So there was no windows on the sides of the building. There was no windows in the basement, no windows in the side, no dormers on the side of the house. So all we had was front door, window, window, and then we had a basement window, and then we had a center window. So on this house, there was a total of 5 windows and 1 door. And we take that times 2, because it was the same on the other end of the house, for a total of 10 windows, 2 doors. Really, really, really inexpensive. I've got some pictures of this house, and I'll put these, I'll show you what that looks like. So this home was really, really inexpensive. And you're, well, why? What made it inexpensive? Well, roof line, really, really simple. And underneath this one roof, but we're getting 1, 2, 3 floors of area under one roof. And we've got a foundation and basement walls, but it's only 30 foot by 40 foot. It's relatively small footprint for the home. Typically a home that would be a 3,000 square foot home might have double that much footing and foundation. So that was a real price savings. Not having doors, windows, or even doors, windows, like dormers out here, saved a lot of money. You might see people have a some kind of a dormer up here. This is not my best work. And that would create a window up here, but it also creates a lot of expense and cost to build this and waterproof it and buy another window and everything else. So by eliminating that dormer, save a lot of money. So this is a very simple way for somebody who's, hey, I want to build an inexpensive home. This home, as it was, we're 100 with the lot, and I understand that property, the land can be a huge variable, but this with the lot and the home built, we were at 180K. So we could take 180 and divide that into 2960. We would get, let me get my calculator. So if we take $180,000, 180, 1, 2, 3, and we divide that by 2960, that, ladies and gentlemen, is about $61 a square foot. Now, for those of us that are out building all the time and we're seeing stuff come in at $125 a square foot, one project that we're working on is at $170 a square foot. $61 a square foot is like free. Absolutely, really, really, really inexpensive. So, when people ask me, what does it cost a square foot, or what are you building for a square foot? A simple home like this that has a basement and main floor and then a little loft up here. But this is very simple, but this had 3 bedrooms in the basement plus a game room. We had main floor, kitchen, living room, laundry room, and master bedroom. And upstairs we had a bathroom and 2 bedrooms. So we had a 6-bedroom home with 3 bathrooms in it. So 6 bedrooms, 3 bath, and a laundry room tucked into this thing, for around $61 a square foot is amazing. Now, I would bet that if a person was to do this $1 at a time and didn't have to mess with a mortgage and getting the bank loan done and paying on interest over time for money that they borrow for materials, you could go out and do this for even less money, especially if you invested a lot of sweat equity. If you could put sweat equity into this, I bet you could get that number down below $61 a square foot. So let's talk about some of the issues that a lot of architects would have with this. This is a very simple design. There's no artistic detail. Nobody's going to call this a French country or a colonial whatever, because it doesn't have any of the architectural details in it, like columns and posts or curved roofs or fancy rock wall. We've eliminated all of that fluff and garbage. It costs money but doesn't add value in the eye. I mean, it might add value to the homeowner because they think, I have a cute house. But it doesn't add market value to a bank, to a lending institution, to an appraiser, to a real estate agent. It's all about square footage. So this is one example of a way to build really inexpensively, depending on what your needs are. Now, some people might say, hey, I want a nice house. I want a fancy house, and I want porches, and I want wraparound, and I want timbers, and it's got to be French country. I got to have it. I want all the architectural details, inside, outside, vaulted ceilings, stonework. I got to have it. Fine. We'll give it to you. But it's going to be at $150 a square foot or $170 a square foot or whatever. I mean, I have literally built houses at a $400 a square foot, and they were spectacular. But they've got all sorts of bells and whistles that most homes don't have, like radiant floors throughout everything. It's got stereo speakers and theater rooms and gypcrete floors and all sorts of fancy things, really expensive heating and air conditioning systems and fancy electrical systems, lots and lots of lights. You know, for example, if you hang a light fixture on a ceiling, that light fixture can be picked up at Home Depot for $70, and it's got 5 60-watt light bulbs in it. It's really inexpensive for that wattage. Now, if I go put can lights and I put in a kitchen, I've got a homeowner that wants, let's say I've got a homeowner that wants 15 can lights in the kitchen, so it's really bright, and each of those are $40 a piece. There's going to be more light, yes, but it's going to be a lot more expensive to put in all of those can lights than it would be to just a single light fixture. So there's ways like that, like that's just one example where you could save money and bring down the cost per square foot. So let me show you a comparable to something that we're working on right now. It's in the pipe, and we're trying to get the cost of square foot down to 100, and we're really trying to get that price down to $125, $130 a square foot. Because that's kind of the budget, and there's some the land cost issue, which has got some problems with high water. It's going to need some engineering and some drainage, and it might even end up being slab on grade in order to put this home on that property. So this home that we're working on putting together and bidding out is not going to have a basement in it, which means we lose one place where we can pick up some inexpensive square footage. which is then driving up the price of the overall square footage. So let me get rid of this and we'll talk about that one as a comparison. Okay, so this house, I'll show you a layout. It is so L-shaped, which anytime you turn a corner, it costs money. That's why shoebox square is always less expensive. I've got a 2-car garage. No, sorry, I've got a 2-door garage that is a 3-car garage. So I have I've got 3-car garage. 3-car garage here, and as you can see, in regards to foundation, I've got all of this foundation here that, and around this whole thing, is a lot more than on that other house. But what we've got here is we have a garage. The other house didn't have a garage, which is why the cost was so low. So we didn't have that additional roof, we didn't have that additional foundation, we didn't have that additional concrete flat work to put in a garage. So obviously the cost of this home is going up because of the cost of this garage. But it's most people want a garage and they want a place to be able to pull in out of the weather, get the groceries out of their car, whatever, put their car away at night, lock it up, keep it out of the weather, keep it nice. Most people want that in their home. Obviously, it costs a little bit more money. So, this house, this is kind of our layout. We're about 90 foot by 30, 40 by 70. And this is 30. This is 30, this is 40, and that leaves this at 60. So you start adding all this up as we go around the house, that's a lot of footing and a lot of foundation. Now, the issue on this property is that it's got a high water table and we may end up with a slab on grade, which means no crawl space and no basement. We'll just pour a thickened edge and it'll be a concrete floor. But all of the plumbing utilities, possibly some electrical runs, we'll have to put in conduit in that floor in order to run a lot of those mechanical systems. So there's a little bit of savings there because I'm definitely not going to be pouring as much concrete in a wall for a crawl space, but I am going to be pouring the floor. So a lot of cost there. So let's see if I can draw this. Bear with me, my drawing is not all that sweet. So I've got the front of the house and I've got the garage. This house has a great big porch on it, and all these big fancy posts. And we've got windows, garage doors, dormers. I think there's 2 dormers over the garage. Bear with me. So you can see this is a great looking house, fantastic house. But so we don't have a basement, and we had this roof with these fancy doors on it. So one of the things that we had to do is, okay, if we can't get the basement, then where can we pick up the square footage? So first thing we did is we went and looked upstairs, and these were just regular trusses. And the regular trusses, there was nothing up there. These were totally fake. They weren't real. They just sat on the roof as a detail. So we went and looked at this space up here, and were able to talk about putting in the attic trusses and picking up some square footage upstairs. And really, with that, there were these dormers on the back side of the house, and these dormers on the back side of the house, and they were all fake, and they weren't serving any purpose other than they looked cool. But we were able to put in attic trusses and eliminate the dormers on the back side of the house, and with that save a bunch of money and pick up square footage that was lost by not having a basement. So we were also, if you're able to, you can see that there was a lot of windows in this house, and we were, in order to kind of value engineer things, we took and cut off this end of the house. By cutting off that end of the house, yes, we lost some square footage, but we saved a whole bunch on our concrete floor, on our footing, and we were able to put some of that square footage back over the garage at a much cheaper price point than pouring a concrete floor for that space. So that was a way that we were able to get the budget down on this house, is by trimming out some of the architectural details that weren't going to be seen on the back of the house, by cutting down square footage that included the slab and the roof. And so I'm sharing this story, and it's kind of abstract, I realize that, but the idea is you're out wanting to build a home, build for yourself, trying to understand as you're looking at house plans or whatever, that all of that fancy fluff, all that icing on the cake, is where the cost comes from. And so if you can eliminate dormers, especially if they're fakes that just sit on the roof, get rid of them, or leave them on the front of the house so that as you pull up to the house, you see your beautiful French country home, but when you're out in the backyard mowing the lawn, it's just a flat roof and nobody sees it, nobody really cares, and it saves you a whole lot of money. You know, most people have a mortgage, and that's great, but when you start talking about $1,000 at 4% over 30 years, every $1,000 starts to get really, really expensive. So I wanted to open this conversation and talk about ways to get the price per square foot down. This house is going to end up at around 4,200 square foot, and we are about $170 a square foot. You can see that that gets pretty spendy in a hurry. Just to double check my math, 170 times 4,200. This house is going to cost $714,000. And before we made these adjustments, we were just over $1 million to build this house. So, I think that as you're out there shopping, you're looking at plans, you're thinking about building a house for yourself or building another home, there's a lot of ways to sit down with your builder, your architect. Actually, I wouldn't sit down with your architect. I would sit down with your builder. And if your builder's worth his salt, he's going to be able to walk you through 3 or 4 or 5 different ways where he could trim the budget and still give you what you want. If he can't offer you 3 solutions or 3 options, you go get yourself another builder.